Hey YouTube, so today we are actually going to do a night drive of the 2020 Hyundai Tucson SEL trim. This is my personal vehicle, and for those of you guys that are new to the channel or watching for the first time, I have been through two other Hyundais in 2 years due to lemon issues. For those of you guys that don't know what the lemon law is, basically you bring it in for multiple complaints, or the same complaint multiple times, excuse me, and they will replace your car. However, I made the mistake of buying certified pre-owned, which exempted me from the first one, traded that one in, and then got another lemon. And then now I have this car, which has been an absolute gem. So basically this one does have the 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine mated to a 6-speed auto, and it puts out about 185 horsepower. Does a pretty good job in terms of acceleration, but it's pretty lackluster just due to the fact that it is an SUV. It's a little bit heavier. And with this one is the front wheel drive model, but the all-wheel drive will be a little slower as well. This engine is only gasoline direct injection, despite anything that I may have said in previous videos. I thought that they actually put the port injection for this particular car, but it wasn't until the Hyundai came out with the 2.5 liter that it actually has port injection to compensate for the carbon buildup issues that these engines are known to have. So it's just one of those things where you just have to monitor it. You know, if you start noticing reduced performance or increased fuel consumption, think carbon buildup for these engines, as it's very common for gasoline direct injection. But otherwise, I have to say, this vehicle is very quiet and very smooth. Despite it being a 4-cylinder, and for those of you physics junkies, you will kind of admire this. The engine runs very smooth for a 4-cylinder because increasing the angle between the strokes will ultimately cause it to run a little rougher, which is why 4-cylinders tend to vibrate more. But basically, oh, don't hit me, 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 don't hit me. Sorry, there was somebody that literally that was about to rear end me. But what's it called? So with that, V6s, V8s usually run a little bit more smoothly, but this one actually does a pretty good job. It's a very smooth engine, at least for now, but I can't complain too much. Yes, I do live in Las Vegas. Might be moving to North Carolina. Ooh. The Subaru's actually going on a cross-country road trip next week. So I did film the Camry not too long ago. I'm gonna take this road again because I'm gonna, what's it called? It sounded like the engine blew up on the hard acceleration, but it actually didn't. It was something that was in the road that just happened to hit the undercarriage, but it kind of spooked me for a second too. But let's go ahead and do a highway merge here. Full speed ahead, here we go. So as you saw, acceleration is not like the most preferable, but it doesn't do too bad. It's very smooth riding, very nice. Lane keep assist is a little aggressive in this vehicle, I will add. It definitely likes to yeet you over if you're not careful. Let's say, for example, the road's uneven, it'll try to help me. As you can see, it just did it right there, and now it's beeping at me because I went too far. So it's one of those things where you do have to monitor the steering on this vehicle a little bit more than you'd probably like. And it is a little obnoxious because the lane keep assist should be assisting you in a more gentle fashion, but I did notice that in this vehicle it's rather aggressive. And when I test drove the Sonata, that video was very impromptu, but the lane keep assist was also very sloppy in that one as well. So that's something that Hyundai can work on, but at least it's offered in the lower trims, as it is a helpful device when you need it. But otherwise, I have to say, this Tucson, I'm really glad I purchased it, to be honest with you. Who knows how long it will last, but hopefully it won't have many issues during its lifetime. I'm very meticulous about taking care of this thing. In fact, I'm so bad that I literally replaced the A-pillar trims, as you see in front of you, because I couldn't stand to see them scratched. And on top of that, I actually got my door panel retextured because there was a scratch on it as well. So I'm very, very meticulous about car maintenance, and even on my own personal vehicles, I'm very meticulous in terms of scratches. I don't like them, even though they're part of normal wear and tear. Now, as you go up in trims, you will get the blind spot monitoring. If you guys get the SE trim, which is the lowest of the Tucson lineup, it will come with a 2.0 liter 4-cylinder, and it will only have forward end collision and lane keep assist. Now, when you go up to your higher trims, such as the Value, it will add the blind spot monitoring, and you will also get different wheels as you go into the SEL trims and the trims with the 2.4 liter. And I have to say, I'd rather have the 2.4 liter just because of the extra power, but I felt that the 2.4 liter also, for some apparent reason, the trims as you go higher up, they rode a lot more smoothly. So it's one of those things where I definitely would recommend going with a higher trim on the Tucson, just because you will notice some improvements that kind of here and there that are really subtle. But it's one of those things where what's it called, I don't know, it just drives a little bit better in my opinion. I also think that the transmission is geared a little bit better. This final drive ratio, or not the final drive ratio, the 6th gear overdrive ratio is still 0.77 for both cars. However, I will say that this one does have lower cruising RPMs, so I'm not quite sure as to why the RPMs are different, because the 2.0 liter, when I'm going 80 miles an hour, it'll actually rest the RPMs around 28 to 2900, whereas the 2.4, which is the one I ended up going with, rests at around 2500 RPMs. So, or if that per se. So basically 0.77 is the 6th gear overdrive ratio, but it's kind of odd because the RPMs rest differently. It could just be, you know, engine stuff. To be honest with you, I'd have to look into it and to go into further detail, but that's basically what I've noticed when it comes to drive. Oh my gosh, did you guys hear my voice crack there? It's what I've noticed when it comes to comparing the two. I also did notice that on this one, the torque converter lockup is very subtle, and it's one of those things where in the older Hyundai Elantra that I had, the 2015, I actually did a torque converter clutch lockup video on it, and I was able to show you guys. On this one, it actually is so subtle, it's really hard to catch it. So unfortunately, I won't be able to do that for you because it would require me to literally, like, show you nothing per se. But yeah, I can't really complain too much. I do overall like this transmission. I like the fact that the torque converter lockup is a little less noticeable. I just love how quiet this thing is. The engine's a little raspy at higher RPMs, but the road noise is so reduced, it's amazing. It's very quiet. I thought this Camry was gonna brake and they hesitated, and it made me hesitate, and then now I have to stop. What a jerk. One thing you will notice on this vehicle as well is fuel economy. It's terrible, and I mean terrible. That's actually one of the things that Hyundai is really notorious for. The 2.4 liter is just a thirsty engine, and even on the Sonata that I drove, I was only averaging 31 to 32 miles per gallon. Granted, the fuel tank was actually bigger than that of the Tucson, so I was able to go farther on a tank, but it is just a rather thirsty engine, and it really shouldn't be, because mating it to a 6-speed automatic, you already have lower cruising RPMs and less spacing between the gears, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But unfortunately, the engine is just, the gas mileage is just terrible. And despite it being an SUV, it actually, what's funny is the 2.4, I think the 2.4 comes with the 8-speed in the Santa Fe. Even then, it doesn't help that much. So it's one of those things where the 2.4 liter kind of needs to go. And I, come in with the 2.5 liter, or, start adding the turbochargers and such, just because it is a little, the 2.4 liter is just not the engine of choice. It's very thirsty. It can be unreliable depending on, you know, which car you get. It's kind of a hit or a miss. So it's one of those things where Hyundai does need to do some refinement, and I'm kind of glad that they're adding back port injection. That will help you. But I do love the way this thing drives. It's amazing. It's night and day difference between this and my Elantras. My Elantras were problematic, troublesome children. And now you guys can see city traffic here. But without further ado, if you guys do have any questions about the vehicle, for those of you guys looking to purchase the vehicle, you know, go ahead and leave them in the comments. This one particularly is not for sale, but if you do have any questions regarding ownership, then definitely go ahead and leave some comments, because I definitely do want to give you some insight with it and sort of experiences with me. If you guys are very OCD about the vehicles that you currently own, definitely hit me up on how to take care of this one, because let me tell you, the interior on this will not age well. And that's one complaint I do have about it, is the interior scratches so easily. For example, for those of you who wear rings, watches, you know, if you are very careless with your bags, you will notice that your door panels will get scuffed very easily, and sometimes you're like, where did that come from? But overall, I'd have to say it's still worth purchasing this vehicle. Just be super careful with your A and B pillars when you guys are putting your sunscreen or sunshades up, because it is so easy to scratch them. Like I said, I've replaced the A pillars multiple times on this vehicle, and it's not even a year old, and it only has 6,600 miles on it. So I'm just saying the A pillars definitely do scratch, and actually doing it yourself is super hard. I'm not gonna lie. When I replaced the A-pillars on this thing, I had to use a spoon to actually get the clips out. So never have I ever used silverware to actually change a car part, but I will admit I had to get creative to get past the little clips that are in there, because they're underneath the curtain airbag. So it was definitely a very angry adventure. All right, we're gonna do another harder acceleration here. It does have some body roll, but the steering is okay. It's artificial, but it's not horrific. It's not like the older ones that definitely had a little bit more artificial heaviness. This one, they did a good job of kind of smoothing out the choppiness that you would get with an artificially heavy steering wheel, because when I had the other Elantra, I would actually have to kind of jolt it over to get the steering to cooperate with me, whereas this one you can do it a little bit more gradually, so I do like that. Engine runs so smooth in this vehicle, I swear. AC is nice and cold. Something that Hyundai definitely offers. They offer a fan speed that's sufficient to cool down your passengers. If you guys remember the Hyundai Accent that was on my channel a long time ago, that thing's AC was terrible. So I definitely glad that Hyundai's got some higher blowing fans now. Although that car was terrible. Super terrible. So bad that like literally I think about it and I get nightmares. But without further ado, folks, I appreciate you guys watching. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video. Oh, well, the light just turned green. But I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video here, as I am ready to go to bed, and I gotta do some editing and such to make this a little bit presentable. For those of you guys that did make it all the way through, I appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe for more content. I am going to be driving with my fiance across the country in the Subaru Outback next week, in the middle of a pandemic, I know. But, what's it called? unfortunately, the United States could not stop, so we have to go ahead and find work, and North Carolina was apparently the place to work. So without further ado, guys, I will talk to you soon, and thanks for watching. If you have any questions, by all means, leave them in the comments. Have a good one.